And starting to the top left, we have the Protoss player in blue. This is
Avenge.
Startail Avenge.
One of the strongest players Protoss has to offer on the Startail lineup.
Yeah, they don't have too many these days, but they are a team who always is able to get a new talent out there after Squirtle and parting. Now it is Avenge, and he is up against a fellow Protoss player. For Team LGIM to the bottom right of Star Station.
LGIM Ruin.
And you know, speaking of Startail Protosses, I mentioned this yesterday on Twitter. Ace is actually commentating the up and down match. He's now a commentator, and he's commentating like right next to us across the way.
Exactly. Bomber talked about it quite a lot when I had him at the WCG qualifier casting with me together. So he talked a little bit about how Ace in the team house is now taking other responsibilities and is also casting apparently a couple of events for Startail, but he's here currently at GOMTV casting for the boss too.
Yep. And look at this. Avenge's Protoss versus Protoss win rate in this studio is 2-10. Name it 16.7. Just a really remarkable stat here, whereas Ruin is at 50-50. And I favor Ruin quite highly in the Protoss versus Protoss matchup here.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I actually would have said that Avenge is going to be the one who is going to definitely leave an impression here. Especially, well, we had a Ruin actually in really good games if we think about it. I mean, he took out in the first round of the Challenger League Balloon, one of the new additions to the Startail roster. And then in the second round, we had actually the series where he was up against SOS, and he gave SOS a run for his money. You can actually argue that he should have won that series. I feel that it was really a matter of experience that brought SOS the win. So that was a very, very close one, and Ruin was one map away from taking it. But on the other hand, we have so many more games that Avenge has played. I feel his best matchup is still the Protoss versus Terran, of course. That's when in the first season of the Challenger League he was able to achieve quite a lot. And against Protoss, he won against Argo, but then in the second round of the Challenger League he lost to Jungbi, who later on continued to take down Lenok, who we'll also see in this group later on, to go straight to the Premier League.
Exactly. One other thing I just kind of want to point out when we talk about these two players is they're both doing basically identical builds. Is that Ruin has a ton of Protosses on his team to practice PvP with, and this is a PvP-centric group. You know, he's got players like Younghwa, he has First, he has Seed, so that could affect this quite a bit.
It's definitely a good point. He has a lot more practice opportunities coming into a group that is dominated by Protoss players.
And Ruin, no extra gate by him. Puts a pylon in the top right corner just to make sure he's got spotters for everything. And Twilight Council going down now. I'm feeling like this is going to be DTs, and Avenge going for the double gates here has a lot of pressure, so he needs to scout and find out what's happening. It depends on how quickly Ruin tries to push out this either DTs or Blink, because Avenge should be able to pressure him quite highly with these Stalkers.
I actually completely feel on that. I think this is what we're going to see here. With the additional gateways that we have coming up now, we could also, of course, see Blink. We have the Twilight Council here for his opponent as well, both of them going down that road. No, not a lot of scouts going on here so far. The probe that is sneaking to the top right has not been spotted, and that will allow him to put one of those pylons up there. Yeah. We have Blink actually coming up here.
When you see the gateways go like that, it means he's probably not going to expand right away, which means he's going Blink. And with the Twilight Council going up counter-wise for Avenge, if he goes DTs, he could have a massive advantage because there will be no detection whatsoever for Ruin. When you look at it that way, it just depends on what he wants to do. He could also get his own delayed Blink, but that would be really strange. And he has to face this pressure right now. Ruin, that is. His gateways are just now warping into warp gates.
And Avenge is going for the Dark Shrine, but we have the scout at the top. Oh my god, he misses the force field!
That was a huge mistake here.
I cannot believe that happened. And now suddenly the Stalkers are in his main base.
Yep. Man, they see the Twilight Council. He recalls here. That was actually pretty smart.
He recalled because we have the Mothership core to the top left, and I don't know if that Dark Shrine was actually spotted.
Yeah, and there's no way for me to check that for you guys.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was actually my cue for Wolf to tell him, please check. But yeah, as I already mentioned...
Okay, he did see it.
Okay, he saw it. Yeah, guys, so once again, just a reminder, we only have our own preview monitor currently in front of us, so today we cannot check on things and double check because our PC is currently not really working.
We have our third person now working on it. Even the Golem Wizard, he looked at it, he shook his head, he doesn't know. I'm like watching everybody go through the same detective process that I did when I was trying to figure out what's wrong.
Usually a good kick helps with like PCs that are really, really lazy, because apparently there's nothing wrong with the PC. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah,
so
yesterday I fixed it by just turning it off and on a few times and unplugging.
That's not fixing it, dude.
I made it work.
Okay, you made it work.
I made it work.
You made it work, but you didn't fix it, or it wouldn't happen today.
I made it operational temporarily. Here comes that first DT, but with all the stuff on the ramp here as well as the sentry, no way this works. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there comes the force field.
But actually, he
squeezes past. The force field is off to the side.
Did he? Okay, there's an observer.
Yeah, now the DT actually gets away.
Well, there's one stalker there. Ooh,
yeah, but there's no
he's
detection.
Not going to chase it.
Oh, wow. So far, the force fields of Ruin were really not tip-top. I mean, the first one already missing, then the second one being a little bit off. Avenge, if you just compare the win ratio of the both of them, you already talked about the GSL wins that they had earlier, but let's focus a little bit on the entire match history of both of them. Avenge, definitely the player who's lacking in PvP a little bit. He's only at a 44% win ratio with 9 maps played, and with 10 maps played, so very comparable size. Ruin is at a 60% win ratio, but he makes so many mistakes. That Stalker loss that we just saw there on screen was also very uncharacteristic for him.
Yeah, you know, he wanted to scout the Nexus, but he could have just waited for his observer, which would have gotten him the same information a few seconds later.
And even if he moves in, he could have moved back, but he didn't do that. So, a really interesting match that we have here. A few individual mistakes by both players, but it's still very close.
Don't forget, Ruin, even though he hasn't been able to really utilize it yet, does have Blink, and so this is going to become an issue. He can pick off Stalkers and blink away. He has to be very careful. If he blinks into the main here, he could get some probes and maybe try to pick off a tech structure. He has to be very careful, and oh, could he get the Immortal? He's not going to go for it. Avenge has no idea. Here comes just a group of 4 Stalkers going to try to get some probes. He's not overcommitting here.
He's actually taking down 2 of the Harvesters and might be able to snipe a little bit more. So far, Ruin is really utilizing the blink upgrade quite well. Takes down another unit, wants to go for the pylon here, but now the Immortals are ready. And he also decides, of course, with the Dark Shrine that we have here, to fight fire with fire.
Yeah.
And with his own Warp Prism, you know, using the Stalkers to draw his opponent out a little bit, that might actually work, and then move the DTs in.
Oh, this was a mistake, though. You know, I don't think he should trade against that Immortal with the second Immortal being there.
Nah, he already moved back. I feel that he realized that this is not going to work out in the long run. But we have both of them now on the expansions, both of them on 2 bases. And Avenge is the one who has to defend here. He's getting additional observers out because he wants to know where there are additional observers for Ruin. That was one of the main things that he accomplished with his own observer. He took down Ruin's high ground observer, so there's no chance for Ruin to blink into the main base anymore.
Yeah.
Avenge goes into Colossi.
Yeah, I'm feeling the Colossi here. I like this choice. He's given Ruin, or rather Avenge, this impression of I'm constantly pressuring you, I'm constantly attacking you, and just now Avenge finally starts to get his own Colossus out. So really, really similar timings here for both players. But with the wasted Stalkers, I feel like the game is pretty much equalized. This DT not going to get too much done. In fact, I think that's... I don't know whose observer that is. Okay, that's actually Ruin's. So he actually gets in the main base here with the Warp Prism. I don't think that was seen.
I don't think so either.
He's trying to boost a Colossus out, so he's going to have to cancel that and get an observer, and if he doesn't do that, then he's going to lose a lot of probes. He has to make a choice. Another one comes here into the natural.
He has a couple of observers already, but they're just not where they have to be, and more probes are being taken down. Ruin suddenly making those CTs really work. The Stalkers move in as well. The Photon Overcharge is baited here, but a lot of Harvesters are already lost, and this really starts to whittle away at Avenge's army.
Yeah. And he even saves the DT, so...
The one advantage, of course, that currently Avenge has for himself is that he already is on the board with not only the first 2 Colossi, but he has the range upgrade halfway done. And with that, he definitely has a slight advantage in tech. Ruin, on the other hand, is heading into his own robotic spay, and if he continues this pressure, then he might be able to just force Avenge into just staying in his own base, gets the time out there to build up his own Colossus army, and that's of course what Avenge is trying to prevent here. He wants to hit his opponent hard when he's at his strongest. He's adding additional gateways right now, and Ruin is even heading into a 3rd base. And Avenge, if he identifies this and can move out, that might really help him enough to take down Ruin, but now even his own observer is being sniped here.
These little observer snipes can actually really start to add up in Protoss vs. Protoss where DTs are active for both players. This is the time where one player may consider making a cannon, in fact, because of the prevalency of DTs. And there's another forge going down here for Avenge. I believe that's his 2nd one. This is actually really weird casting off of your computer. Like, there's just such a lack of information for me.
Welcome to my world.
Yeah.
There's now the Templar Archive going down for Rune, and with the Templar Archive, he's really now in a position where he can add the Storm later on. Archons alone can, of course, also be accomplished by DTs if you really need. The +2 attack upgrade has been started here for Rune, that is. Unfortunately, we don't know exactly what... Oh, actually, that's the +2 attack upgrade for Rune. Okay, we don't know exactly what kind of upgrades his opponent is on.
I think he's actually just adding his first Forge. I must have been mistaken earlier, which means he's really behind in upgrades.
Exactly, because he's now building those two cannons that we talked about. And if that is the first Forge, then he doesn't have a single upgrade, and I think that's the case. So Rune is starting to take a massive lead here in overall tech, but we have the army now moving to the bottom right.
He's going to target the Nexus here. There's no reason not to. He has +1. He has enough Zealots here. He's got the DT as well. He should be able to actually kill this Nexus. The probes are coming back to fight. The Photon Overcharge is attempted here.
They're just too many DTs. There are 3 in total, and Avenge decided that it's just time to move to the bottom right.
Yeah, he has to. He's all in right now, and he has to make this attack work. This is all on Ruin right now. He starts to make a gateway wall here. Not really going to be too useful, but he needs to make sure that he gets those Archons in the right spot. They're at the back here. This Nexus is forfeit, but it's fine because even if he loses it, it's 2 Nexus against 1. And I feel like Avenge... he has to realize this. He has to realize that
he's pulling his probes, Wolf. He's pulling the probes. He wants everything down at the bottom right. He wants to go for it. He knows that there's no way for him. Even if he takes on the third base, it's not going to be enough. And he's trying to move in right now. At the natural, he's moving in with his army, baiting out the Photon Overcharge already. The probes are still on the way. The +2 attack upgrade will be done for Rune soon, and he just finished range. This is a great position for him.
Yeah, I think Rune can hold this easily. And Avenge, he knows killing that Nexus is like killing a big pile onto him. It's actually not really relevant in this game. There's so many Zealots. He's got the Immortals to help as well. Overcharge is still good. The Archons at the back. A few DTs sneak in, though.
And we have immediately the Time Warp being used here on all those observers are at the front. Here comes the army of Avenge, but it's already cornered. He's taken out with so many of the Immortals are just trying to do the damage here at the front, but he's pushed back once again. Drops in supply. Avenge is down to 60 against 100.
Yeah, I think there's some DTs in the main base, but it's just not going to be enough. Even if he kills every probe, the entire army is gone, and all of the probes of Avenge are gone as well, and that is going to be game. Pushes these Colossi back, the Immortals here. So those DTs I was talking about, and actually, does he not have an Observer? Where did his Observers go? He had two of them. Okay, there they are. He's just a little bit too far ahead.
No, actually Avenge's Observer. That's Avenge's Observer.
But he has 2 Observers right there.
He doesn't use them. He does not use them, but here's the GG. So Rune takes the game, making a few mistakes here in the early game, having a bit of a problem with his force fields and looking a little bit shaky at the start. But then he just gets a hold of himself and gets into a good position against his opponent Avenge. Gets a superior economy, a good tech, always pressures Avenge. So Rune takes the first PvP of the day, and Avenge is now down 1 game.
Yeah, just superior play there by Rune. And, you know...
It's really interesting to me, by the way, that our monitor has apparently changed.
Well, actually, to be honest, I don't think that's the problem. I think I actually have to talk to them in the break. I don't think they know what's going on. I know what's going on. The computer's got an issue with its power. I'm pretty sure that's it. They think it's an issue with the monitor, but I can see like my keyboard light's not even lighting up. Like, I'll talk to them about it later. But
I think the gun was a note.
I think he must know. But in the end of that game, it was kind of weird his observer control there, because that kind of thing can actually change the game. If suddenly somebody loses all their detection and it's all DTs, then you can lose. But anyway, moving completely on here, it's time for Keen's second game. He had a really rough start in the group, and now he's up against the Lean Octopus, so he's got to be sweating here, because if he loses this game, then him getting out of the group is no longer under his own control.
Yeah, if he loses this game, then it's going to be a pretty shaky day for him. Leanog, on the other hand, I mean, he kind of promised already that he wants to get out of this group. He was so not happy with his performance in the 3rd round of the Challenger League, and now he wants to go to the Premier League. This is his second chance. And Leanog is just such an amazing player, but a lot of people said that they favor Keen and Leanog, so this is kind of the game of the 2 players that most people thought would get out of this group.
Yeah, exactly. These are the 2 everyone's saying's getting out, but if Leanog wins it, then Keen has a very low chance of getting out of the group. He can still, but it's not going to be up to him anymore.
Yeah, then he needs to go for a tiebreaker here.
And also win the rest of his games, every single one of them. So, Belshire Vestige here, 2-player map. Keen, he's got to keep himself cool here. He knows that he lost his last game just out of misfortune, essentially, was what led him to be in such a disastrous position. And as long as he plays a straight-up game here, he can keep the last game out of his mind.
The big problem here for Keen is that this is by far his worst matchup. He has 12 maps played and he has only a 33% win ratio, and then going up against Lenog is always a little bit tricky. Lenog himself in Heart of the Swamp definitely not as strong in this matchup as he was in Wings of Liberty, but still, this is Lenog after all.
Yep.
And we are going into the third map today here at the GOMTV Up and Downs Group C, brought to you by Colorado.